This was captured by a police officer's camera in San Diego. But this is not the only disturbing thing you're about to see. From officers witnessing possible exorcisms to real-life zombie attacks. In this video, you will see some of the most chilling moments ever captured by police. And the best part is that I ranked them from the least terrifying to the most disturbing case of all. So take this video as a challenge. Try to make it to the end without getting scared. Are you ready? Let's begin. Number 10. We're starting this list with something that may not be the most terrifying case, but it is definitely strange. In a quiet rural area of Puerto Tirol in Chaco, Argentina, the owner of a field found something strange buried in his property. It was a large cylindrical object, dark, damaged, and completely out of place. At first, it could have looked like ordinary debris. But the moment police arrived, the situation became much more serious. Because this was not something they could simply pick up and remove. The area had to be secured, firefighters were called in, and specialized personnel began treating the object as if it could be dangerous. Then they started removing it from the field. What makes this case disturbing is what authorities later believed the object could be. The cylinder was reportedly made of carbon fiber and measured around 5 feet 7 inches long and almost 4 feet wide. It also had visible valves and a serial number, which immediately raised one possibility. This thing may not have come from a truck, a factory, or a nearby machine. It may have fallen from the sky. Some early theories suggested it could be part of a rocket, possibly a fuel tank component connected to space debris. And because materials linked to rocket systems can be dangerous, authorities restricted access to the area and allowed only trained personnel near it. But perhaps the strangest part is where it landed. Not in the ocean, not in an empty desert, but in someone's private field. Close enough for a local resident to simply walk up and find it. And if this object really was space debris, then the scariest question is not only where it came from, but what could have happened if it had landed somewhere else? Number 9. Number 10 case may not have felt that terrifying or strange, but this time things get a little more dangerous. At around 2:33 in the morning, employees at a hotel in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, called police after noticing something unusual near the bathrooms. At first, it sounded like someone might have been trapped inside. So 2 officers from the Gatlinburg Police Department arrived at the Quality Inn and Suites Gatlinburg North and walked toward the bathroom door, not knowing exactly what they were about to face. What makes this moment so tense is that the officers were not dealing with a suspect hiding inside the bathroom. They were dealing with a trapped bear. According to the police report, a hotel employee had seen the animal enter an exterior bathroom and somehow get locked inside. That explains why the officers did not simply open the door and stand there. One of them stepped back while holding 2 long sticks, and the other grabbed what looked like a wooden board before pushing the door open. Because the moment that door opened, anything could have happened. The bear could have charged, it could have panicked, or it could have attacked the nearest person while trying to escape. Fortunately, once the door was opened, the animal ran in the opposite direction, away from the officers and hotel staff. Number 8. If the previous case didn't feel disturbing enough, this one takes the list into much darker territory. On January 30th, 2017, police in New Mexico received an alert about a woman who had allegedly been kidnapped in Las Vegas and forced into a white van. Less than 24 hours later, officers located a vehicle matching that description. At that point, they still didn't know if the woman was inside. They didn't know if she was alive. And they didn't know what kind of scene they were about to find when they opened the van. But when the officers finally checked the interior, the situation turned into something far more disturbing than a normal traffic stop.
Une femme nommée Jane était enchaînée au plancher du van. Son ex-petit ami, Jack, l'avait enlevée après être entré par effraction chez elle. Expert en arts martiaux, il l'avait maîtrisée facilement. Une fois arrêté, Jack est resté d'un calme déconcertant, demandant même aux policiers s'il aimait les cantiques avant de chanter Amazing Grace sur le...
Inside the van, officers found a woman named Jane chained to the floor. According to the investigation, her ex-boyfriend Jack had forced his way into her home and overpowered her before taking her away. Reports also said Jack was trained in martial arts, which made it easier for him to control the situation before anyone could stop him. But what makes this case even more unsettling is how calm Jack appeared after he was arrested. Instead of panicking or showing fear, he reportedly asked one of the officers if he liked religious hymns. Then, while being taken to jail, he began singing Amazing Grace. The investigation later revealed that Jack and his alleged accomplice, 19-year-old Samuel Brown, had an even darker plan. They were reportedly trying to take Jane to a cave that had been dug into a hillside in New Mexico. Their plan was allegedly to brainwash her and force her into marrying one of them. Fortunately, police found the van before that could happen. Jack was eventually sentenced to life in prison. But the most disturbing part of this case is knowing how close Jane came to being taken somewhere far more isolated. Number 7. From this point on, the list starts getting much stranger. This video was allegedly recorded by a highway patrol vehicle in a mountainous area of Romania. According to the version that circulated, an officer named Andrei Popescu was patrolling at night with another officer after receiving reports of strange lights near a rural area. At first, they thought it could be people using flares, maybe illegal hunters, or even a small fire somewhere on the hillside. But as the patrol car continued down the road, the vehicle's camera captured something unusual in the distance. A strange ball of fire appears behind the trees and slowly rises into the sky. But what makes the video so unsettling is the way it moves. It doesn't look like a normal explosion because the entire area is not suddenly lit up at once. It also doesn't look like a drone because the glow appears too intense and its movement looks more like something lifting from the ground rather than flying normally through the air. The clip ends almost immediately after the light disappears into the darkness. After that, the patrol reportedly continued toward the area to check what had happened. But according to the version of the story, they found no signs of a fire, no stopped vehicles, and no people nearby. Which makes the whole thing even harder to explain, because if that light came from the ground, then the question is, what exactly took off from that mountain? Number 6. At this point, the videos stop feeling simply strange and start feeling genuinely unsettling. In Coronel Dorrego, Argentina, residents began sharing a strange photo through WhatsApp groups and social media. The image had reportedly been taken near the town's municipal nursery. And at first, it looked like someone had abandoned an old chair on the side of the road. But when people looked closer, they realized there was something sitting on it. Something that made many locals stop and ask the same question. who would leave this here? A doll had been tied to a chair. And what makes the discovery so disturbing was not the doll itself, but the way it had been placed. It wasn't simply thrown away. It wasn't lying on the ground like trash. It had been positioned there, tied down, almost like part of some kind of ritual. As the image spread through the town, people began speculating about what it could mean. Some thought it was just a disturbing prank. Others connected it to old rural superstitions. And some residents went even further, suggesting it could be related to witchcraft or black magic. One local journalist said the photo started circulating in a group chat, and almost immediately, people began sending messages and theories about it. But then the case became even stranger. When he passed by the area again, the doll was no longer there. It had disappeared. Later, local reports said the doll had apparently been thrown into the municipal dump. So maybe it was nothing more than a cruel joke. Maybe someone placed it there just to scare people. But when something like this appears near the entrance of a quiet town, tied to a chair with no explanation, it's easy to understand why some people felt it was meant to send a message. Number 5. We've reached the middle of this list, and in this video, things start feeling much harder to explain. The footage was recorded in Nayarit, Mexico, by a police officer named Jesus Barcas while he was doing nighttime surveillance with another officer. It was around 3 in the morning. The streets were quiet. Most people were asleep. And the two officers were simply patrolling near an elementary school when they noticed something unusual in front of the building. The video appears to show two small figures standing in front of the elementary school. Because of their size, many viewers claim they looked like children. But what made the recording go viral was the detail mentioned by the officer himself. According to him, they could not clearly see their feet, and they could not make their faces either. That is why some people began calling them the ghost children of that school. Of course, not everyone believed the paranormal explanation. Some viewers suggested they could have simply been the children of a night watchman or someone who worked near the school. And that is a possible explanation. The problem is the hour. It was 3 in the morning, during a police patrol in front of an elementary school that should have been completely empty. The officers were close enough to notice something was there, but not close enough to explain exactly what they were seeing. And that is what makes this footage so unsettling. Because if those were just two children standing outside a school in the middle of the night, then the question becomes even more disturbing. What were they doing there? Number 4. If you thought the last clips were unsettling, this one pushes the tension even further. A teenage girl was recording herself for TikTok when she suddenly heard strange noises and screams coming from one of the neighboring houses. At first, she didn't know what was happening. But the screams became so disturbing that she stopped what she was doing, ran toward the window, and began recording the street outside. The officer can be heard asking for a rosary. That single detail is what made the video go viral. Because moments earlier, neighbors believed they were hearing a woman being attacked inside the house. Some of them were shouting for the officers to help her, convinced that someone was hurting her. But after entering the home, the police reportedly realized that the situation was not what everyone outside had imagined. Instead, the case began being described online as a possible exorcism. Authorities did not officially clarify what really happened inside that home, and the identity and condition of the young woman heard screaming in the background were not publicly confirmed. So maybe there's a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was panic. Maybe it was a medical or emotional crisis. But when police enter a house expecting one kind of emergency and come out asking for a rosary, it is easy to understand why this video left so many people disturbed. Number 3. If you thought the last video was disturbing, this one makes the situation feel even worse. During a nighttime patrol in the Maldives neighborhood of Xochimilco, Mexico, police officers noticed something strange in the middle of the street. At first, it looked like a woman standing completely still. She was wearing white clothes, white socks, and her hair covered most of her face. The officers slowed down. They tried to get her attention, but she didn't move. She didn't react. And the longer they watched her from inside the patrol car, the more unsettling the scene became. Pay attention to how she stands there.
Güey, no mames. Bájale. No. No.
The woman remains completely motionless, even as the officers honk the horn to make her react. But nothing happens. She doesn't step back. She doesn't turn around. She doesn't even seem startled by the sound. And that is when the tension inside the patrol car changes. One of the officers suddenly screams and the unit pulls away from the area. After the video went viral, many people claimed the officers had captured something paranormal, mainly because of the way the woman was dressed, her hair covering her face, and the fact that she never seemed to respond. But others saw the video in a very different way. Some viewers suggested the woman may have been under the effects of fentanyl or another substance and criticized the officers for leaving instead of checking if she needed help. The truth is that her condition was never officially confirmed. So maybe this was something paranormal, maybe it was a person in crisis, or maybe it was simply one of those moments where fear takes over before anyone fully understands what they are looking at. But either way, seeing a woman standing completely still in the middle of the night, while even the police seem too disturbed to approach her, makes this clip extremely hard to forget. Number 2. At number 2, the situation becomes even darker. In the province of Misiones, Argentina, police officers responded to a confusing scene involving a woman who was reportedly acting in a very disturbing way. At first, it was unclear if they were dealing with someone in crisis, someone under the influence of something, or something much stranger. But as the officers surrounded her and tried to calm her down, the situation only became more unsettling.
Por favor, ayúdame, no puedo. Sí, pero dale ayuda. No puedo. Por favor, que no seamos un pastor. Ustedes no saben.
¿Qué te pasó, mamá? ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Por favor, el pastor Dionisio, llámenle.
Pastor Dionisio. Ahora le llamamos. ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Lucifer. Yo me llamo Lucifer. Me llamo Lucifer.
Bueno, tranquilo. ¿Sí?
Esta alma es mía. Eso es lo mío, ustedes no saben nada.
Lucifer, nosotros creemos en Dios, así que Lucifer, ¿te tranquilizas?
The woman, while screaming from the ground, claimed her name was Lucifer. And that is the exact moment the video became impossible for many people to ignore. One of the officers, clearly trying to stay calm, responded by saying, "Well, Lucifer, we believe in God, so calm down." But the woman kept screaming. The officers continued surrounding her carefully, taking precautions because they did not know how she might react. In the footage, she can be seen making strange gestures, twisting on the ground, and yelling while the police tried to control the situation without getting too close too quickly. The video later went viral after a user shared the story online, and thousands of people reacted to it. Some viewers believe the woman was truly possessed. Others said it was more likely a psychological crisis or some kind of altered state. But regardless of what the real explanation was, the way the officers reacted shows how uncomfortable the situation became. Because they weren't just dealing with a woman screaming on the floor, they were dealing with someone who looked them in the face and claimed to be Lucifer. Number 1. Now comes the most terrifying case on this list, and once you see it, you'll understand why it's number 1. Police were sent to an area after several witnesses reported a violent assault, but the call didn't sound like a normal attack. According to the person who reported it, someone was not just hurting another person, someone was biting him, like a zombie attack. At first, the responding officer thought the call might be some kind of prank. A zombie attack sounds impossible. It sounds like something no officer expects to find in real life. But when he arrived at the scene and stepped out of his patrol car, everything changed. Because what he saw in front of him was so disturbing that he immediately pulled out his weapon.
Let me see your hands! Hey! 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 Let me see your hands! 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 Hey! 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 Hey!
The officer found a man on top of another man, attacking him in a way that looked almost unreal. This is why so many people later described the case as a real-life zombie encounter. The officer began shouting commands. He ordered the attacker to stop. He told him to raise his hands, but the man didn't react. He didn't run. He didn't look scared. He didn't even seem to understand that an armed officer was standing right there. Instead, he stayed focused on the victim beneath him. And that is when the situation became even more terrifying. The officer fired warning shots, trying to force the attacker to stop. But even then, the man barely reacted. The commands continued, the shots continued, and still, he remained there, almost completely absorbed in what he was doing. It wasn't until the fourth shot that the officer finally managed to stop him. After the incident, very few details were made public about what truly caused the attack. Some believed it was cannibalism, others suggested some kind of drug-induced psychosis, and others claimed the case felt too disturbing to be explained normally. But whatever the truth was, this remains one of the most horrifying police encounters ever recorded. Because the officer arrived thinking he might be dealing with a strange emergency call, and ended up face to face with something that looked like it came straight out of a nightmare.